Welcome to the first episode of Talking Builders. I'm your host Faz, and today we are here with LeonSBU.
Woo!
Hello, Leon.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Okay, to people not knowing you, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Leon. I go by LeonSBU primarily online. I am a content creator. I've been making Minecraft videos for almost 5 years, maybe 4.5 years. I've been streaming for about maybe 6 months at the time of this recording. I primarily make building videos. Well, I guess historically I made building videos. Nowadays I do a mixture of building content and SMP content. I've been involved in quite a few pretty cool like servers and projects like Skyblock Kingdoms, UHC Generations, among a few other things. And yeah, I'm a big fan of building.
Okay, that's awesome to hear. Before we start building, of course, we need to know what are we gonna build?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you let me pick, which is very nice. And I was thinking about some sort of nice like tropical beach scene. I'm thinking, sandy islands, a little shack, some palm trees, something nice and warm and tropical, for lack of a better word.
And why did you choose the build?
Right, that's a bit of a harder question. It's kind of just been like calling to me lately, I guess. I've been doing a lot of builds lately that are very, very much the opposite. For example, my base on Skyblock Kingdoms is very industrial. It's very cold. It's a big city, right? There's a lot of ice. There's a lot of deep slate. A lot of these kind of cold, hard feelings and blocks and all that. And I just been kind of wanting something a little different, a little more warm and cozy, a little more chill. So yeah, I think that's why.
Okay, then I guess we'll go to this door and
Alrighty.
start building. Let's talk about you do a lot of collabs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where did the idea, because your most famous type of collabs, as your 10 builders versus something? Where did that
Yeah.
idea come from?
That's a good question. I think it kind of just appeared in my mind at a certain point, which is a very vague answer. It came to me in a dream. No, I think it was a combination of a few things. First of all, it's if you're familiar with the series UHC Generations that I was part of for a while, that was a long time ago, but there's this interesting concept in the series of, well, I guess to give a basic premise of the series, it's a hardcore series, but whenever you die, you pass the world on to someone new, which is a very cool idea. But one of the things I always liked about that series in a more kind of lighthearted way is that whatever problems you have with that world, you can just pass them on to the next person, right? Like, I put down a bunch of torches around the main base in the world just for safety, and rather than try and put in some good lighting, like a nice lighting system, lanterns or lampposts or whatever, I just made it a quest for a future generation to go clean it up. It's like, yeah, you just go clean up my mess, it's fine. So it was that sort of attitude that, like, yeah, you're only in this space for a limited time, and that's okay, because whatever you're not finished with, whatever you don't want to bother with, you just pawn off onto someone else, which I don't think is, of course, a good mentality for the world at large, but for a Minecraft video, it's kind of funny. Um, so yeah, that's where that initial concept came from, and I was also just thinking about ways to, make some sort of building challenge that people would want to stick around for the end for. Like, for a big thing in making videos is, of course, how do you keep the viewer engaged till the end? For example, like 100 days videos are a great example of doing this really well, because you want to see what happens at day 100. You want to see if they survive. You want to see, what their progression is like at day 100 versus day one. And similarly, if 10 people each come in and work on a build in series, then you don't actually get to see the finished product until the very end.
What is your
Mm-hmm.
favorite 10 builders versus?
Yeah, that one's tough. I have a lot of them that are favorites for different reasons. The first one that comes to mind, I guess for just pure like fun and enjoyment, quite possibly it's maybe my most recent one that I just put uploaded as of the time of this recording, right? Like uh 2 days ago. Yeah, where you have to recreate builds that I made. That was a whole lot of fun. I had a really really great time recording that. It was I think everyone else involved seemed to really like it as well, which I was very happy with. Um, yeah, the ones that stand out to me are generally the ones that are just the most fun. That like people or at least I, at the very least, had the most fun. Another one is the skyscraper one, where I got my friend Viking Pilot to come in and hunt everybody down at the end. That was a lot of fun. Um, the builds themselves were fine. Actually, no, the builds were good in that one too. People built some really good stuff, and then having like a sort of manhunt at the end through all the different floors of the tower, I thought that was really really fun. So, I would say one of those two probably, but they all have their quirks.
What do you look for when choosing new participants or collaborators for your events slash videos?
Okay, yeah. So you're talking specifically about the 10 builders videos, right?
Yeah, for collabs, but mostly 10 builders videos at the moment.
Right. Yeah, because of course, like something like Skyblock Kingdoms, obviously, whoever joins this server that's a collective vote, right? I have a very small part of that. Um, but yeah, the 10 builders stuff is of course on me, and I would say the main thing I look for is just if I think somebody. Well, it depends a lot on the video. If somebody has a specific skill set or maybe a lack of a skill set that I think would be funny in the video, like my second most recent one is all about redstone farms. So the people I reached out to were people that I, in my mind, had clocked as not technical players at all, right? Like these are the kind of people that would never build a farm without a tutorial, if they even build farms at all, because it's if I invite a bunch of redstoners on to build farms, they're all just going to have an easy time with it, or they're not going to struggle. And a part of the fun of the 10 builder series, in my opinion, is getting these funny reactions, these panic moments, and even just seeing the half finished builds. I think there's some merit to seeing people fail at things, and not in like a sadistic way, but in a very like human way. So yeah, I look for that. I think about what sort of vibe the person has in their content, what their personality is like, what their skills are. I would say that's the main thing I look for.
Let's talk about SMPs. You've been recently in a lot of SMPs I've seen. What do you like most about SMPs?
Well, not to, actually you or anything, but I've only really ever been in one SMP, which is of course Skyblock Kingdoms. I would say I don't actually have a lot of SMP experience compared to a lot of my peers. Um, the thing I've liked the most about Skyblock Kingdoms is the roster. Like the people we have on there, they're awesome creators. They're awesome people, genuinely people that I would just love to hang out with, as not only as creators but just as friends. Met some really amazing people through that server. Our roster expanded for season 2 twice, right? Once at the beginning of the season, once partway through, and yeah, I just really love the people that are involved. And SMPs can go they can be so volatile in the community, like in the people involved. You really need to have a good group to make an SMP work, and I'm very grateful for the Skyblock Kingdoms roster, because I think it's a really really great roster of people.
When you decided to join the server, or when you got invited to join the server, what was the first thing you did?
Oh man, first thing I did. Good question. I mean, I was pretty scared joining the server, even though this was back in season 1, because things had really just gotten started about a month ago. The server was already going, which was kind of scary. Yeah, because I joined a month into season 1. It was a 9-month SMP. I had 8 months. So I think the first things I did, the first thing I did on the server was have my sort of like stranded on an island sequence with Josh, Code Neon, which was a lot of fun. But in terms of like behind the scenes, I think the first thing I really wanted to do is just get to know people. I knew maybe a quarter of the server going into it, and there were a lot of people who I had just never heard of before. And obviously I'm not, I don't want to just play on an SMP with strangers. I want to actually get to know these people. So I was in Discord calls. I was looking at people's channels and watching SBK videos, just getting a feel for who these people were like. So I think that was the first thing I did.
In SMPs, you always have the balance between lore and gameplay. What do you prefer more?
Oh, you can't have one without the other, at least in my opinion. Oh, I love the dry bushes, by the way. That's a very good addition.
Oh, thank you.
In the game. No, that's really smart. Yeah. I'm the kind of person that wants both. I like to, have my cake and eat it too when it comes to this sort of stuff. I wouldn't want to do I wouldn't want to be on a server like SBK and make a series that's entirely just gameplay, no story, no characters. That's just not for me. I've had a lot of fun this season and last season as well. I'm not even really, I guess, playing a character. Like I wouldn't even call it roleplay. I would just call it being a slightly different version of myself. Because if you want to be super bare bones about it, you just act like yourself, right, in real life. And that's fine, and that's perfectly acceptable, and people do that on SBK. There's nothing wrong with that. But personally, I wanna go for a little, like, maybe a little backstory, or try and maybe accent certain character traits, right? You know, like for example, this season of SBK, I'm really leaning into the ice boat roads, right? And that's mainly because I wanted to have a season all about the ice boat racing, and I wanted to use this sort of like fast electronic music. That was the aesthetic I wanted for the season, so I built a character around it. You know, this version of me with the racing helmet and that loves driving boats, when in reality I don't really care one way or the other. You know, boats kind of sucked, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, but for the sake of having a fun themed series, I'm going to really lean into it.
How do you try to stand out in an SMP?
Okay, that's a tough question. Yeah. It's tricky because on one hand, I think, you know, everybody wants to stand out, everybody wants to make their voice heard, but on the other hand, people shouldn't try and just be the main character all the time, right? If you're on an SMP with, let's say, 20 other people, it's a bit presumptuous to assume you're always going to be the main character in every situation. So I don't like it when people do that. But of course, wanting to stand out is natural, and I encourage that people to do that. I would say just look at what other people are doing and just find something about you that's different and really lean into it. For example, on SBK, I think my videos, not only are they well edited, but I think that they have a certain style to them. I spent a lot of time preparing the way season 2 would feel. Music choices, the fonts, the graphics, the transitions, the pace at which I edit. All of this is very designed around this, like, you know, Eurobeat, electronic, high octane racing sort of vibe that I'm going for this season. And I think I do that more so than most other people on the server. That, yes, people are good at editing, but they might not necessarily lean into that, like, aesthetic. That makes any sense.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay, good.
Of course, Skyblock Kingdom is still Skyblock. What is the hardest thing you have had at the moment in Skyblock Kingdom?
Good question. Hardest thing about SBK. I'd say the grind work. I put a lot of grind work on myself for this season, trying to mine so much ice, trying to supply the entire server with dirt, and on top of grinding regular materials for big builds, right? Obviously, every Minecraft world is going to have some grind work to it. You want to build your big base, you want to build your big farm, etc., etc. But in Skyblock, farms and grinding is really a lot more important just because of the lack of materials. Like if I wanted to farm, I don't know, 100,000 ice for packed ice. In a normal Minecraft world, you just go to a snow biome, you find the packed ice in like an ice spikes biome, and you go, oh.
Yeah.
My bad.
Okay, while we're done with SMP, what is the color palette you want to go for on the small boats?
Right. Yeah, I was thinking I want to do like bamboo wood. I want to use I'm thinking something that's a little elevated on stilts like this. If we were to, let's say, have some sort of balcony, like let's say we do 2 blocks up, we do like a bamboo trapdoor sort of thing, and then maybe a staircase down. Yeah, I'm thinking some sort of like typical like tropical island shack. You know, that's the vibe I was going for here. Yeah, I'm thinking bamboo wood, maybe some jungle wood, maybe a little bit of the spruce wood to go with the palm trees, but primarily bamboo.
Let's go then to the content questions, because you, of course, are a content creator.
Indeed.
What has your experience been like as a full streamer? Because as a full content creator, because you are a full content creator now.
Yeah, for better or for worse, I am. It's been interesting because on one hand, it's been extremely fun. And I absolutely love it more than any job that I've ever had before. But on the other hand, money is a big concern, right? As with any sort of self-employment, financial stability is a big question. So I'm currently, kind of getting that sorted. So that's the kind of thing that's going to become more of an issue, I would say, in the coming months. But as of right now, I've got savings, I've got a place to live and all of that. So it's all been good so far. But the main thing is, yeah, like especially if you were to do this in the long term, like let's say a lot of content creators also have, families, right? Spouse, kids, etc. Um, that opens up a whole other can of worms, right? Because you need to be able to provide for your family, you need to be able to offer them some sort of stability. That's very difficult when your income is dependent on YouTube AdSense, for example. That could be very scary.
How do you balance creating YouTube videos with Twitch streams?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it hasn't been too hard, thankfully. I set myself a stream schedule that I figured would be manageable, but then not overwhelming. I stream 3 days a week. A lot of the time, whatever I'm working on stream can just be put to use in a video. Like if I'm working on a build, I'll have a flashback running in the background, and then that build ends up in my next video. I think being able to multitask in that way is very handy. Because you can, whatever you're doing on stream could end up in a video. It's just, are you recording? And are you remembering to record whatever you're working on? So, yeah, it's been a pretty easy balance, thankfully, right? Like, of course, not having a day job anymore. I have more time on my hands. That leads to, more time for streaming. It's just kind of all worked out, thankfully.
You, at the moment, also double stream?
Yeah.
Will that keep going, or will that ever stop? Those
Right,
kind
I
of
see what you
influence.
mean. Yeah, good question. I'd like to keep both going. I think not just for the sake of having something different to do, streaming versus editing versus recording, but also just having as many streams of revenue leads to more consistency. If 100% of my income came from AdSense, then it would fluctuate a lot more. But then let's say YouTube has a bad month. Maybe Twitch can help make up the difference, or merch, or Patreon, or a second channel income maybe is doing better. My second channel isn't monetized, but a hypothetical example. Yeah, that helps out a lot, thankfully. And I'd say on top of that, yeah, you mentioned multi-streaming. It's something I've enjoyed. Generally speaking, the YouTube streams don't really get the same sort of interactivity that the Twitch streams do, but that's just kind of how YouTube as a platform is. So I'm not too stressed about it. The thing I do worry about is that my audience gets tired of me constantly putting out streams on YouTube, and then they will miss a video if it goes live because they're used to just ignoring all of my stream notifications. But yeah, my general strategy with YouTube streaming is like stream for the audience I want to have, not the audience I currently have. Because my current subscriber base is not interested in watching my streams. That's just kind of an unfortunate fact. At least the vast majority of them aren't. But I would like to have a subscriber base that wants to watch my streams. So I'm working towards that.
Streaming is also a bit harder because you need to entertain the whole time. While on YouTube, you
Yeah.
just have to have the video entertaining.
No, for sure. Sorry, I'm trying a couple silly things with hay bales here. I don't know if this looks good or not. I like the idea of having that floor texture, but then you just see it underneath the.
That's true.
Yeah. Gotta put myself back into building mode here real fast. It's difficult to build and talk, so I'm trying my
Yeah,
best.
that's the point.
Okay, got it.
Now you know how it feels for your builders.
I guess I do. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think you'd want me to just be like making panic noises. I don't think that would make for a very good interview.
It will make a fun edit.
Fair enough. Let's see. You asked. Oh yeah, right. Entertaining. Yeah. There's a good quote from my friend Viking who says that almost every streamer could be a good YouTuber and not necessarily the other way around. So I totally agree. Like, there are lots of creators out there who they make YouTube videos, and that's, obviously they're comfortable doing that, but they don't have experience necessarily talking to a live audience or anything like that, and that's fine. That's just how they want to conduct themselves online. But chances are, if you're already used to streaming, you're already used to being in front of a live audience, you can transfer over that to recording for a YouTube video pretty easily.
A question that I think is one of the most important ones, is how do you try to make your streams unique?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a very very important question because the biggest way to succeed on these platforms is to find some sort of niche or find something to make yourself stand out. In terms of streams, I think the biggest thing is unique. You know, unique is relative, right? Unique to who? In my case, it's unique to my peers, which is primarily the other folks on Skyblock Kingdoms. And I think a big, for better or for worse, a big aspect of me being unique there is just all the dumb, stupid, awful things I say on my streams, all the brain rot, right? Like, people, not everybody likes that. Some people just downright hate it, and that's fine. My streams aren't, you know, for those people. If you fly into a rage when you hear 6-7, then you probably aren't fit for my streams, and that's fine. Um, but the point is that I'm the only person on Skyblock Kingdoms who is doing that nonsense, who is really embracing that kind of nonsense, and I don't want it to be the only thing I'm known for, but since we're here, it certainly makes the streams interesting, which is good. So yeah, that plus the PNG tuber I have. Being a PNG tuber by itself is not necessarily unique, but I think I've made the streams interesting by adding in a bunch of redeems my chat can mess with. You know, they can change the color of my scarf. They can do all sorts of things, have these fun, silly animated videos play that like affect my PNG tuber in some ways. And I think that, you know, adding that interactivity goes a long way to making a stream feel unique and fun. In fact, give you that tomato. There we are. Let's go gambling. Indeed, let's go gambling. Right, welcome in, you guys. I have a little Never mind.
What do you say to someone starting YouTube?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I get this question every now and again. It's a very good question to ask because, you know, it's very difficult to start something like this. There's a question of consistency, which is, of course, just how do I consistently make videos? How do I consistently come up with ideas? That's a question I don't think I can really answer very well. But in terms of improving, making better videos, you really just have to keep doing it. What I like to say is try and make every video better or different than the last. And what I mean by better or different is that you should not only strive to make your videos better than the last one. That's just kind of a given. You want to improve. You want to refine your technique. But there comes a certain, that you can put a certain amount of pressure on yourself if you're always trying to make your videos better than the one that came before them. So as long as your video could be just different, as in you're trying something new, you're trying a new editing style, you're trying a new recording style, maybe it's a different format, you're talking about a different topic, and maybe the video, maybe you aren't as happy with it, but the fact that the video is different also can go a long way. So yeah, keep trying, keep putting stuff out there. Don't forget to improve, don't make the same video 500 times. And this is a mistake I made when I first started making videos. I've now unlisted all of them, I think, but I used to be a shorts channel. And what I did is from my first ever YouTube video, which was in April, all the way through the end of the summer, so April, May, June, July, into August, for I think that entire time, I made a YouTube short virtually every single day, if not every single day, which is, well over 100 shorts. And on one hand, I'm proud of my consistency for that, but on the other hand, all of those shorts were terrible. So I basically made the same short 100 times. Same copy-pasted editing, same commentary style, same script, basically. It was essentially a series of these like really quick and short building tips for a specific Minecraft block. So for example, I would dedicate an entire short just to hay bales, or an entire short just to barrels, or an entire short just to, I don't know, doors, or an entire short dedicated to saplings, right? Like very specific blocks. I'd make a whole short about it, talking about unconventional ways to use it in your builds. I love the green banners, by the way. That's a very good idea.
Thank you.
But all those shorts sucked. I never really tried to refine my process very much. I never tried to branch out. And then I ended up with a bunch of shorts that I didn't like after a while, and a bunch of um, subscribers that only really were interested in shorts, which is now what I don't do anymore. So yeah, that's my other piece of advice is don't just chase trends or whatever topics you think will get you the most subscribers or viewers fast. Start building a community from day one. Make the videos now, the same kind of videos that you would want to make if you had 1 million subscribers.
Okay, before we continue with questions, what do you want to put inside of this build?
I don't know. Um, Okay, well, I'm thinking maybe we make one of these walls solid, just for the sake of, um, like just having a solid wall. So maybe like on the outside here, I might just put some shelves in, and then on the inside we have a solid wall to, I don't know, put like a bed up against, or maybe some storage or something. Yeah, didn't didn't think this far ahead, but go ahead and put something like that in. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that way we have a little bit more like living space, I guess, for lack of a better word. But yeah, feel free to put whatever you like in there. Maybe like a bed or a bit of storage, or maybe like a table area.
You are most confident with YouTube videos. What is the hardest thing about making YouTube videos?
When you're first starting out, consistency. And once you get going, it's not letting the ups and downs of the algorithm mess with your head too much. That's my opinion. When you're first starting out, you're trying something new. You don't really know if you should be doing this in the first place. You don't know if it's cringe or not. You might not have a lot of confidence in your videos. And so taking the time, let's say every week or every month, to make new videos, that to establish that consistency is genuinely really difficult. You got to have a lot of bravery to just commit to something like that. But once you get going, every channel will have ups and downs. My channel has had some crazy ups and downs this year in terms of revenue, in terms of views. And when you're in the down period, you got to keep pushing through. When you're in the up period, you can't let it get to your head. Nothing is eternal.
That were the questions about content. Now let's get some random questions. What is your favorite Minecraft block?
Oh, that one's easy. I will add it into our build somewhere.
Yeah, wait, melons?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, why melons?
Why melons? It goes all the way back to UHC Generations. Some of the first pieces of fan art I ever received involved me building a melon farm. And it was a very, very, very like overpowered melon farm that produced entirely too many melons. And some of the first pieces of fan art I ever received were about me and this stupid melon farm and like all the melon slices. And it just like I just latched onto it. It's as you go, you kind of just find things, whether it's fan art or something from a specific series, that you just latch onto, and it just becomes part of your brand. Like melons are here to stay. And it's all because of I made a stupid melon farm in UHC Generations.
If you could add anything in Minecraft, if you are the major person that can choose next update, what would you add?
Well, the kind of easy answer is I would add the penguin.
I knew that was the answer.
That's definitely up there. Also, I'm just gonna be adding in a bit of water. Let me just put a border around this so we don't just flood everything. Yeah, so the penguin definitely up there. That probably goes without saying. But beyond that, I would love a proper inventory update. There's a lot of things I would like. I would like a proper inventory update. I would like more regional mob variants. Like they're doing a little bit of this now, which is really nice. But I want more stuff like husks. More strays and bogs, and like I want to have basically every mob. That if a mob exists in more than one biome, it should have different versions. Like they did that with the cows and the pigs and the sheep. That was really cool. Do that more. Let's say maybe we have, I don't know, different kinds of spiders. Maybe if spiders in tropical biomes have like crazy colors, or I don't know. They already do that a little bit with fish, but maybe we have more kinds of fish that rather than just tropical and normal, maybe they have different sizes. Actually, they might already have different sizes, but you know what I mean. Maybe add bears more than just polar bears. Add like black bears, grizzly bears, yada yada, for different kinds of biomes. I think that would be nice. I'd say those are my top 3.
You are a gamer because you play Minecraft, but did you play any other games?
Yeah, nowadays not so much. I don't have a lot of time for a lot of other games. Also, just a lot of other games aren't really interesting me that much right now. Um, yeah, it's the time and the lack of interest, but there's definitely been a lot of different games and game series that I've loved over the years. Always been a big fan of the Elder Scrolls franchise. You know, Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind. Yeah, that's a big one. Um, I've been into a lot of like the Valve games when I was younger, right? Like Team Fortress 2, Half-Life, Portal. Not so much Counter-Strike, but those two mainly, or those three are definitely big for me. Um, Other similar Minecraft like adjacent games, right? Like Terraria, Stardew Valley, those games. Yeah, I'm unsurprisingly a big fan of like kind of cutesy building games with pixels and all that. That shouldn't come as a big surprise. So yeah, I'd say those are some big ones for me.
You do a competition thing each month, which I've won once. They're called the wait, what is it called again? Monthly Build Challenge.
Yep, that's it.
What are things you always look for when making these building competitions?
Do you mean look for from the participants' builds or look for like
Look
good
for and the
themes?
participant builds and look for in teams.
Okay.
Let's start with and the builds.
Yeah. The builds, the big thing is just doing something unique. You know, I've realized that there are a lot of builders in my community that are very talented, technical skills, Axiom, World Edit. You know, they can build these crazy big things. They really put a lot of time into it, and that's awesome. And I really, really appreciate that. But then, you know, sometimes I don't want to just see the biggest build. I don't want to see the most technically complex build. That's still very cool, but I'm also looking for builds that just kind of have an interesting twist to them. Or just have something, you know, that's something creative there. Like a good example, the one chunk build or competition that we did in November. One of the winning builds was by someone goes by Miss Mori, and you know, nothing against their build, but it definitely wasn't the most like technically impressive. It wasn't the most, you know, it had the most amazing use of like color theory or whatever, but it was a giant diagram showcasing the progression of a Minecraft world, starting from the overworld, going into the underground, into the Nether. And me and the other judges, we thought that was very cool. It's a very interesting take. Like, oh, a one chunk build. Nothing about one chunk says you have to make a diorama showcasing the progression of a Minecraft world, but that's a very cool, clever spin on it. And that's a big reason why their build got was one of the finalists, because it just had that extra sauce to it, you know.
And what do you look for? What was the other thing again? Wait, I'm stupid. What do you look for in teams
Yeah, themes.
of the building competitions?
I like to vary it between small themes where I want to encourage people to focus on detail, and quote unquote big themes where people can go out all out with, you know, Axiom and all that. I like to have a mixture. So if I've done a really big, massive one where like, yeah, people are making these crazy, you know, 1 million by 1 million Axiom mega builds, then the next one is probably going to be a small one. I put a size limit of like 50 by 50. And yeah, you know, I look for suggestions from my mods, look for suggestions from my community. Really just something that makes me go, ooh, which is a very not quantifiable metric, but it's really just, do I like the vibe? That's basically it.
Okay, Leon, thank you for coming. Who do you recommend I interview next?
Aha. Well, of course, no guarantees that anybody I recommend will obviously accept the interview request. So, obviously, I can't speak on behalf of anybody, but I think one person that would be really interesting to interview would actually be my season one island partner, Josh. Goes by Code Neon on YouTube. He has been doing this for a very, very, very long time. He's been making videos, I think, on and off for like 13 or 14 years, and he recently, as of maybe earlier this year, hit 100,000 subscribers, which is, you know, really big milestone, obviously. I think hearing more about like his journey, all the various things he's tried over the years could be really interesting. And he's just a cool guy, so I think, you know, worth reaching out to him and seeing if he's interested.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And finally, where can people find you online?
Aha. Yes. Well, I am on YouTube and Twitch. On YouTube, I am LeonSBU, and on Twitch, I am the most wonderful Sigma Chad username, Leon69 Yeet Dab. The most aura of all usernames on Twitch, by the way. So yeah, I stream 3 times a week currently on Leon69 Yeet Dab, but I'm mainly go by LeonSBU, of course. I've got a bunch of other links. I got a Blue Sky, got a second channel, Leon ETC, etc. for all my other random crap I like posting. There's a Patreon page and all that. But yeah, the YouTube and the Twitch are the main ones.
Okay, thank you for coming out. It was so nice to talk to you about this, to interview you. And I'll see my viewers in the next episode.
Alrighty, sounds good. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that
Like and
notification
subscribe.
bell.
Hit
You'll
that-
be epic and
that
poggers.
button.
And, yeah, no, thanks for having me. Though. I
Check
appreciate
Leon's
it.
channel. You have to check it.